Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Colleen Aubrey, and I am the Vice President of Performance Advertising. I've been at Amazon almost 16 years now and spent many of those years working on building our advertising products. So I'm super excited today to introduce you to three fantastic leaders on our team. And what we're going to do really is talk about some of the things that people are excited about, some of our most difficult technical challenges, and a little bit about how we work at Amazon and specifically how PEs play a critical way in role in the way we build our products. So I have Muthu Krishna here, I have John Nillis, and I have Pooja Seth. So why don't we start with a brief introduction from them. Let me start with you, Muthu.
Hi, everybody. I'm Muthu, and I lead sponsored products advertising.
Pooja.
Hi, I'm Pooja Seth. I'm the director for sponsored brand ads. I lead a performance-based brand ad product at Amazon. Like Colleen, I'm very excited to being close to 15 years at Amazon, which I will complete in July. And yeah, I'm here to chat with you today.
Great. And John.
Yeah, hi everyone, welcome. I'm glad to meet you. So my name is John Nellis, as mentioned. I'm a principal engineer in the advertising measurement and reporting team. And I've been at Amazon 12 years as well. And prior to working in the measurement space, I have also worked on a video advertising team at Amazon. And I spent some time on the retail search team at Amazon. And even before joining Amazon, a lot of my time was spent in like big content management problems, large catalogs, web driving. And currently I'm focused on building out like scalable, extensible big data problem infrastructures and driving some new science-driven measurement offerings. So nice to meet you.
Thanks, John. So I have a set of questions, and I think some questions that were also submitted by the group. I thought maybe I could get us started by a question for each of you, actually. And maybe, John, if you could kick us off. I'm interested in hearing, like, what large-scale challenges are you working on in Amazon advertising, and what are you excited about?
Yeah, sure. So there's a couple areas that I'm really working on scale challenges. One is focusing on how to scale our advertiser reporting and API services. So this is a service that responds to queries, often sub-second, to provide campaign performance data. So this data is typically highly dimensional time series data sets, so quite large data. These services, some of the scale challenges we have is these services have to account for a growing advertiser base. So more and more clients are requesting this type of data. They want the data more quickly. Their investments are becoming more critical. So just the feedback loop, they want quicker. And then the business keeps growing and adding more and more measurement features, which the net result is just more data under storage, more data to be sent across the wire. So that's kind of one area that's taking a lot of my time and exciting to actually try and solve those problems. This second area is kind of in the big data space. We're working on designing and building out kind of an event-driven, cell-based big data orchestration solution to really simplify how we process big data across the org. And so there's more and more teams that are kind of jumping into the big data space. And so we're trying to give them a head start by building some infrastructure that makes it easy for them. They can just focus on building the applications for their problem area. And then we handle all the infrastructure, compute, topology, just try and give them a running head start.
Thanks, John. And Muthu and Pooja are actually two of John's biggest customers, and probably creating a lot of the challenge for him in terms of scaling our measurement and attribution services. So maybe we can go to Muthu and hear about what scale challenges he's working on.
Thanks, Colleen. So our advertisements are products that we sell. So they should be useful to our shoppers, and it should help our selling partners be able to get the products into our shoppers. So we need to respond. In order to do this, we need to be able to respond to millions of requests from shoppers. And we have to be able to look at billions of products that our selling customers are going to show to partner our shoppers and be able to do all this within a few 100 milliseconds. That's our target. And in order to do this, we had to deploy many, many different machine learning models. Our machine learning tells us what's the context of the shopper and what will they find useful. Is an ad going to be relevant to them? Will it give them a compelling discovery experience? And will it also help our selling partners target their campaigns and get returns they want? So machine learning drives all of these key decisions and impacts the experience of our shoppers and our advertising customers. And the biggest challenge for me is how do you build this large distributed scaled machine learning system that can address the needs of shoppers and advertising customers within the few milliseconds we have to operate every time. That's our biggest scale challenge. And as Colin mentioned, we rely on large number of systems, including some of the biggest data systems that, that John talked about.
Thanks, Muthu. So Pooja, I know that you experienced some of these same challenges for sponsored brand, but I wondered if there's sort of some additional challenges that you're working on.
Yeah, definitely. I think with respect to the products that we own, we need to solve building engineering and science systems that specifically meet the needs of brands. And so the latency challenges that Muthu just talked about increases for us quadruple times because for us, we have to show right on top of search, and we have to show a lot of rich media and rich images and videos in order for brands to meet their customer needs as well. And so that high volume, low latency requirements are really high for us. And then specifically, in addition to that, we also need to solve for enabling brands to tell their story through collection of rich media as well. So we have to solve for how to acquire content, how to store content, how to share and retrieve content, and then measurement of content of those brand content, and then application of it at the right time at the right place as well. So these are some of the unique challenges that we have to work towards being a brand-based advertising product.
Thanks, Pooja. Maybe we can build on that a little bit, and maybe I can start with John again, but I was interested in, John, if there's a particular part of the problem that you're working on that's sort of your favorite technical challenge to solve.
Yeah, I would say for me personally, I actually like solving all of them to some extent. I like the variety. I like the challenge for sure of the big problems and the variety that advertising gives. And in particular, advertising is kind of, I didn't know what to expect when I jumped into advertising 8 or so years ago, but it brings this complex business problem and technical problem together, low latency problems, high scale problems, as Muthu was kind of pointing out, recommendations to advertisers or even what's the best creative, for example, to show to particular users. Just all kind of interesting problems. And then me personally, I love the architecting simple solutions, building solutions that have big leverage and longevity to them. So within our current, some of the areas that I'm kind of focusing within our current, more specifically our problem is around our core systems and data models that we have. The business has been just growing so quickly that our current systems, how we scale, kind of how we architected them has changed quite a bit. And it's kind of forcing us to kind of reinvent and reimagine our solutions. So from the measurement side, an example is we used to have measurement architectures, which we called M1, M2, M3. It used to be MySQL, Oracle, Big Hadoop, Redshift, and we quit naming these a few years back just because the systems have been evolving so quickly to meet the scale and the needs. And so it's just an exciting space. And so those are the things I like, is just kind of reimagining the architecture every couple of years. Excellent.
And then Muthu, how about you? What's the sort of your favorite technical challenge?
I would like to definitely solve John's problems. There's so many exciting problems in our space, and as an engineer, I'm just thrilled every day to be able to think about them. So for me, one of sort of mind-changing sort of challenge comes up when I think about, I like many talented engineers who work independently, separately, and invent on their own. And somehow all of that clicks together into a great performing system. And that's the model I always enjoy. And an example of that was when we looked at our ad server. This is a system that has to respond to requests and come back with an ad. It does many, many things in between, and each of them is a complex machine learning job. It has to understand the context, the source, relevance, prediction, and so on. Each of them is a complex machine learning job, and we always believed that there will be a single ad server that will be able to do all of them. And this is this monolithic architecture we had. And to many engineers out there, it'll be very simple to have a debate, a centralized, a distributed. This is a central question that comes up in every system design. And we had such debates. Should we have a single ad server that can run through all the tasks? Or should we be able to do these tasks independently and be able to combine these machine learning predictions? And there was a great debate and the great fear that given the latency we had with the ad serve to serve ads, we wouldn't be able to call the services that would do independent complex machine learning tasks. But we took a big leap and we tested out whether we can do this. And our engineers could invent. They could come up with asynchronous streaming APIs. They could come up with great innovations to make each individual models fast enough within the latency limits they had, so that all together we could make the system work while each independent system of groups of engineers could really innovate on how to build their models and evaluate them the best possible way. And this was sort of a myth-busting exercise for me. It might reflect the kind of conversations we always have with centralized and distributed, but this particular instance of being able to operate very complex distributed machine learning systems with no latency was a great exercise and a very successful one because it made teams go faster independently. And for me, it's an example of how our team and our leaders constantly drive us to, re-examine our architecture design. And this is one example where we could do it, and I was very excited about it.
Thanks, Muthu. And there was one question from Manoj just about what our QPS is. Maybe you could share sort of a range for sponsored products and the ad server we use for SP.
So generally, in most of the major publishers, it will be about tens of millions of requests per second. And in each request, we will be dealing with thousands or tens of thousands of candidate ads. Generally, there are a lot more of them, but you'll be dealing with tens of thousands of ads per request. And there are millions of requests per second. And for each of those ads, you'll be running dozens of models of about several layers deep, 4 or 5 layers deep. If you multiply it out, you know what our QPS would be. If that's the way I would think about it. I would not think about just the number of operations, but I'll think about what are the functional requests that you should satisfy every second. And that'll be a few million times a few tens of thousands times few layers of models with few layers of depth of each of the models.
Thanks, Muthu. I might go to this next question and look for Pooja's feedback, and then I'll come back to Boris's question in the chat. So Pooja, we have a lot going on across all of our teams, and we're working on big products, so that of course increases complexity. How do you think about managing competing priorities and balancing sort of the focus of the team and moving fast with the range of opportunities that we have?
So working backwards from the customer, that's really at the core of how we make decisions, right? So we look at prioritizing we collect a lot of data on what the customer benefits are, both shoppers as well as advertisers. And then we use that in our product decisioning, and working backwards from there, we make our decisions. We believe that if we solve for customer pain points and we solve for advertiser pain points, we'll be building the right products that both shoppers will love and enjoy, as well as advertisers will feel compelled to invest in. And so in summary, we base a lot of our initiatives on customer data, strategic importance, customer pain points, growth drivers, and then we take a blend of these and make our prioritizing decisions based on these factors.
It's a lot to take into account. And so for the people on the call, as you can imagine, it's a fairly dynamic process. And I think we work hard to stay fairly agile and responsive to sort of the emerging needs of customers on a week by week, month by month basis. Maybe John, we could go to you. And I think there's a couple of questions in the chat. Firstly, about how we measure the efficiency of CPM, and then secondly, about the progression that you mentioned from M1, M2 to sort of how we're building for measurement and big data today. Maybe we could answer those two questions and then talk a little bit about how you see your role as a PE and the way that you drive product vision.
Yeah, sure. So measures of efficiency that we use for CPM, I guess I'll call this out in two ways. One, the measure for the advertiser is going to depend on kind of what their goal is. So if it's sales, it's going to be some version of how much sale they drove per million or per 1,000 impressions, and trying to get the performance that they want out of it. If their goals are click or something else, then we kind of measure that way. From a systems perspective, though, anytime you're CPM, you're kind of at an impression grain. And we're also we offer some viewability type measurements, so not just click based. And so that ends up being a lot of data scale within our system. And so we frequently are measuring our system for how efficiently the cost of the whole overall platform is, like per 1,000 impressions that we serve, and all the measurement data that comes around it. So hopefully that was kind of a little insight onto that question. To answer the M1, M2 type progression question, it's a lot of it is the initial versions, I guess, of our measurement system, and probably advertising as a whole is a pretty scrappy approach. At first, we try and build and get features out in front of our customers to see what's working for them. And then oftentimes we're building to scale underneath as the product grows. So we're definitely trying to get that feedback loop with customers. And so some of those early analytics kind of systems were built on some off-the-shelf, started out more relational, and then we moved into kind of more the big data systems, and then finally more to like S3 backed stores, Hadoop EMR type processing. So a lot of the progression was just, we had too much data that couldn't be served by those systems, and so we ended up moving to other systems, and just a natural progression kind of to where we are today. And then lastly, kind of the role of engineers on product strategy. I would say principal engineers have they're kind of in a unique spot within Amazon, especially as an IC, a high impactful IC. And so you definitely have many opportunities to influence product strategy. And Amazon has many different styles for PEs. And what's really important is that the PEs are force multipliers. So they find a way to make a large impact across the organization. Some of that could be very depth into technologies and really core technologies. Others could be more kind of blending both business across the tech stacks and technology, and ensuring the technology will support kind of the business needs. And that's kind of where I tend to sit a little bit more, is kind of the tech application business space. And so you do have opportunities. I'll just give you my example is I'm definitely very involved in kind of reviewing and kind of proposing roadmap goals for operational planning each year. I sit in on a lot of product, we have a lot of product positioning papers, and I'll review and provide feedback on those, and I've helped write a few as well. So like there's no constraints on what you can do, and I think the key thing here is just to be a strong owner. Like, we expect all of our Ps to be a real strong owner in the space, figure out what the space needs, and help satisfy what that is. And so if it's a product vision, like kind of own it. We want to make sure our customers are successful, and so we're focusing on those problems. If that means that there's availability, latency issues, then we go and try and solve those as well.
Thanks, John. Maybe we can sort of build off a little bit about what you were saying about sort of thinking about what the customer needs are, and actually working back into the engineering challenges to solve that. And Pooja, I was interested in if you had like maybe an example of how we keep that customer impact front and center as we're building our advertising products. And maybe we could talk about video, for example.
Yeah, so we definitely keep that long-term advertiser impact in all our systems. I'll give an example. My team is responsible for a new ad product that we just launched. It's a video ad product in search. And when we ran that product, we got a lot of good customer feedback through a lot of data that showed that customers were really resonating with the ad unit. And we built a lot of systems to actually capture some of that data and use that data to actually double down on those experiences. So we worked with a lot of teams across search, across detail page, and shared that data and actually built a lot of those customer experience metrics within our data to measure both the short-term as well as the long-term impact of some of those experiences as well. So that's an example that I can share that we just launched with some of our ad products.
Thanks, Pooja. I wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity to talk a little bit about the role of machine learning. And, you know, when I think about advertising, machine learning is sort of at the heart of much of what we build and do, and the way that the products come to life for advertisers and for customers. So maybe Muthu, I wondered if you could talk a little bit about how we use machine learning today and what you think are the biggest opportunities.
Quickly, as nearly all engineers are called, machine learning is almost as essential as computing, memory, or any of the other systems we got used to. And we use machine learning in every part of serving advertising. So for example, we start out with our advertising appears in some context. Maybe shoppers are looking at a particular product, or they're looking at a particular query, and they're exploring around the query. And we need to figure out, what do we understand about the query? What kind of products are shoppers interested in when they post a query or they look at a particular product? So understanding the context, we use machine learning for understanding the context. Do they care about a particular brand? Are they looking for new products in the marketplace? Are they looking for something aspirational? Are they looking for something very precise that they want to quickly fill? We use machine learning to understand the context. Then we had use machine learning to figure out, if we show this particular product as an ad, will it be useful to shoppers? Would they want to be able to click, explore it, purchase it? Then we want to combine all of these, and often we have a very large demand and we have a large number of ads we could potentially show. But we need to figure out a few that we want to show them, a couple in the top or a few in the whole page. We need to figure out how to select and rank these ads and price them, and we use an auction for it. But an auction is also nothing but a machine learning routine. We learn how to rank using and how to price on each of these components that uses machine learning. And for me, when you look at this, all of ad serving can be composed as a collection of machine learning systems working together. And the biggest opportunity is to make that process efficient. So how do we have a horizontal scaling so that many teams can automatically figure out offline training to online onboarding of these models? Many teams can mix and match machine learning tools available and systems available. Some of them may use GPUs for high performance, some of them may not use GPUs, may use more high-powered models but in an offline way, and you pick up the cache. And how do we provide a system where you can automatically go from training to online boarding, independent of whichever configuration of systems we use? This horizontal scaling is the biggest challenge for ML in ad serving. And it comes up in every one of the ad products we deal with. And I'm sure Pooja has systems like this that they work on, and all the other CPM products that Colin mentioned also have to rely on these kind of systems. And you can abstract it all and look at it as a sort of a framework for automatic config-driven way to enable the multiple machine learning systems to work together and scale. And that's our sort of central challenge.
And Muthu, just building on that, is there sort of a particular role you see PEs playing in solving for this, you know, delivering novel machine learning algorithms to, you know, have effect on our advertising experiences?
Yeah, I have to say that PEs are engineering leaders, so our engineers revere them. But what is exciting about the products that we run is that I'm a scientist also, and we have many scientists, and our scientists also look up to PEs, because our PEs enable both science and engineering to come together in these ad products. A good example is we use TVM, for some tensor products for GPUs. And these things don't work off the shelf easily for what our scientists want to do, what our engineers want to build. So our PEs are the ones who are able to bring the talent in AWS, talent in our ad systems, talent in NVIDIA, and to come together and say, can we scale beyond what these individual products are able to do and work together? And that's a big role our PEs play in being able to enable high performance by bringing this talent together. The other is many of our PEs are domain experts. They understand ML and they understand advertising and they understand data systems, as John was talking about. So they're able to say, look, here is a way to invent and simplify. We have a lot of different architectures are working, but a good way to invent and simplify is something called Twin Tower architecture, where we can embed ads separately from context. And that way, all the embedding that we do for ads can be done offline. And in the real time, we only have to embed the context. And this is a great simplification because this means that we don't have to, at the time we have to serve ads, we don't have to embed both context and ad products. And one product is done offline. And it's a great invent and simplify example our PEs lead. And they propagate this way of thinking to all of our engineers and scientists, and that makes us all work efficiently together. And finally, our PEs are very good in looking at the overall system and being able to say, well, here we are using heuristics. We could do much better by deploying ML. They find opportunities to deploy ML. So we see our PEs embedded in every part of our ad system and guiding both scientists and engineers to be able to work together into productive systems that we can output. And that's a great role for PEs, and that's the reason why we revere them.
Thanks, Muthu. Maybe we can shift a little bit, and I was interested in hearing really from John and Pooja about the areas of innovation that you're excited about over the next couple of years, and these areas which the PEs will play a key role for us. Maybe John, you could kick us off.
Yeah, certainly. The myself personally, kind of from a product perspective of I think where we need to move, where there's opportunity for us is more into the advertiser media planning measurement area, where we tend to just be scratching the surface. And so this is an opportunity for significant innovation, right? For advertisers when it comes to recommendations, actionable insights, how investors should actually invest and assess their advertising strategies throughout the platform. So these are really hard problems, both to satisfy the customer, provide a great customer experience and overall value. So both involve large investments in data science, machine learning, so that's kind of like key product where I think we should be going. And then me personally, from a technical perspective, a couple things I'm heavily focused on is architectural simplification throughout our stack, finding single what we consider single-threaded owners of certain technical areas within our stack that can provide a lot of leverage and vision within that area to provide simplified user experience. And then the other thing is we kind of, it's fast growing. You can imagine engineering teams are growing quite considerably. And so we do have friction kind of in the system. And so how do we simplify the frictions for, like I talked about before, making big data processing easy, improving our data models so that people can add features kind of in a self-serve automated way. So those are just constant opportunities that we have to try and get better, make it quicker for our engineering teams to kind of deliver features for customers.
Thanks, John. And Pooja, where are you excited and what sort of innovation do you see coming in the next couple of years?
Yeah, so we started this journey, I think about 2 to 3 years ago, where we started really developing brand products on Amazon. And we started with stores, posts, sponsored brand ads, follows, and brands have continued to, be at the forefront of some of these new innovations where shoppers can come and discover brands and, engage with different discovery experiences on Amazon. And we continue to develop features and products that help brands have a voice, connecting brands to the right customers, simplifying content and management of those brands, and then really creating measurements that brands can then use to measure the performance of their brand campaigns. So in order to do so, we have a lot of technical challenges to solve for, right? Like I said before, we have a lot of low latency, high volume systems. With specifically brand products, you have a lot of rich media and creatives and videos that you have to render at super low latency requirements. So how do we solve for that? Then we also have to flip that. Amazon has traditionally been a very ASIN-oriented systems, right? And we had to flip it on its head and really had to design with brand first. So how do we design with brand first is something that we need to think about and really start to permeate all of those branded data into our ad serving systems as well. And then how do we define the relationship between products and brands and shoppers and really innovate in terms of machine learning systems in order to build those relationships back into our models and really serve our customers the best experience. So these are some of the technical challenges that I'm really, really excited about within my space.
Great, thanks, Pooja. I know that we're at time, but I think there was one question that came from the group, John, that I was hoping you could answer and sort of wrap us up. And the question was, what is the underlying technology for separating compute and storage for data processing?
Yeah, good question. There's a couple areas, I guess I'll answer this. In the big data space, where I spend a lot of my time, we've kind of moved to a model where we're using S3 to kind of back all of our data. So that becomes a storage layer. And then from there, we actually stream our data into kind of like a MapReduce type workloads. So previously, it used to be that you'd spend a lot of time loading that data onto clusters, local file systems and stuff to access the data, and you spend a lot of time there. Majority of workloads have kind of moved to more of a streaming approach where we just loaded it in S3. You can stream it to actually multiple clusters if you want, so you can concurrently use the data pretty easily. So that's one, and there's solutions out there for reading kind of mapping a HDFS file system on top of S3. A second kind of pattern we've also seen used is to kind of use like elastic block storage, EBS backed EC2 instances, where you can especially for we've seen this used for a lot of fast lookup type data, where you can load your data into these elastic block storage mounts, and then you can swap out EC2 instances as you need them and just remount the storage systems. And so we use that pretty successfully as well, so that you're not tied to kind of, if the EC2 instance is faulty, you can easily swap it out and not lose all your data and reload it. So those are a couple instances that, a couple approaches we use to solve that problem.
Thank you, John. So I know that we're a few minutes over, so I wanted to thank Pooja, Muthu, and John, but more importantly, I wanted to thank the engineering leaders that joined us today. I hope you found the discussion useful and you were able to learn a little bit more about our performance advertising programs and some of our core capabilities like measurement and attribution that we're building. And if you are interested in learning more, you can certainly reach out to Amazon-ads@amazon.com, and we will get back to you. And hopefully it was a time well spent today. So thanks everyone.